Are you wasting your hard-earned dollars?
Well, we're going to find out today, or at least give you maybe a better idea of what might be worth it and not when it comes to some of the crazy products that we see online. You know, social media has become, really just like routine for so many of us.
Yep.
We all have it. We keep up with our friends. We follow people. But for instance, in particular, TikTok and Instagram have become some of the largest platforms for selling and shopping and e-commerce. And we actually have some stats to kind of show you how crazy that is. So 40% of young people go to TikTok or Instagram when looking for a place to eat instead of going to Google Maps or like just searching on Google, which is wild. Now, that's significant.
I think this is crazy, right? Because you and I are of the age, we kind of were around when social media came into being.
Yes.
Hearing people say this, like, hey, if I want to look for a restaurant recommendation, if I want to think about where to go, the first spot that I'm going to go is go look at TikTok or go look at Instagram. I don't like that, right? Like that just, it doesn't compute. But what it does show us is that people are using these things to make decisions. And it's not just decisions about where to eat, but it's all kinds of other decisions like where to spend our money, where to spend our hard-earned dollars. And I'm so excited because what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do is prevent you guys from wasting your money, because we know how powerful our dollars can be.
Yeah, look how easy it is to just swipe, click, and buy on, say, TikTok. TikTok, the average user spends 89 minutes per day on the platform, which is already kind of significant, especially when you consider that's like an average. And then 2 out of 3 of those TikTok users are likely to buy something that they saw on TikTok. And 50% have bought something after watching a TikTok live video.
Now this I can't get my head wrapped around, because 2 out of 3 seems like just an asinine statistic to me, because I'm looking over at our production table right now, and it's, some younger folks who I imagine are on TikTok or experience it. 2 out of 3 of them are going to buy something on that. Like, it's no longer that social media is just this place where we scroll and we kind of lose our time and we waste our time. But now people are influencing us to make purchase decisions.
It's a marketing giant. Like the influencer thing, the testing it out, the hearing reviews from quote unquote real people, like real opinions, real people. Like it's very convincing. I mean, I think just being an Instagram user myself, I've seen how that can happen. You start thinking you need a certain thing. And so here's the deal. We're all about, at the Money Guy Show, once you are following the financial order of operations, once you're saving that 25%, we don't want you to feel like you can never spend on something that matters to you or something that's fun or something that you're going to enjoy. That's part of why we have the rules in the first place. But in experience social media and even seeing these stats, it's like, how quickly can you just make a decision?
Yeah, do I really want to spend my money on that?
Yeah, that's kind of a foolish decision. And so that is like the overarching thought that first inspired this show. But then we thought, what if we had some fun and actually checked out some of these top products that TikTok is pushing?
And specifically, some of the products that our team has, I don't want to say fallen prey to, because
have literally bought.
I don't want to make a judgment call,
from
right?
TikTok.
Because some of these things may be legitimate, but some of them may not be. And so we kind of want to talk about them, see what you guys think, because anytime we decide to use our dollars for something, it doesn't matter what we're spending it on. It matters that we're choosing to spend it very purposefully. If you like coffee and you want to spend $5 on a latte, that's okay. Spend aggressively on that, but don't allow yourself to waste money. And unfortunately, we live in a world now where society wants us to just waste that money, and we're going to see some products today that maybe they're wastes of money, or maybe they're not. Are
they worth it or not? So let's kick it off with our first product. This is the Go Youth 2-in-1 Under Desk Electric Treadmill.
Now, this one's interesting to me, Reba, because here at Abound Wealth and the Money Guy Show, a lot of our folks like standing desks.
Yes.
Like that's the thing that they say that they want to utilize. They want to be able to stand up and sit down, and I can get on board with that. We want to support our folks. If it's going to make you happier at work, more productive at work, enjoy being at work more, that's perfectly fine. But this one might be a bridge too far for me. An under desk electric treadmill. Let's see what TikTok has to show us on that. It's literally a treadmill under the desk.
It literally, she's just walking, and she's got a cool standing desk, but that's not part of this product.
That's not part. It's just Oh, so under desk treadmills.
I feel like I would get distracted doing this, walking all day.
I agree with you. I agree with you so much so that I told the team, I was like, well, this is ludicrous. This would never make sense because there's no way you could actually do your job. There's no way you'd actually be able to focus. And they all fought me on this and said, au contraire, Bo, no, you can do your job. You can still be productive, even if you're walking on a treadmill. And I said, I don't believe you. And they said, okay, let's put this to the test. Because what's interesting is that every Tuesday from 10 a.m. Central to about 11:30 Central, my job is to sit here and hang out with you guys and talk with you guys. So we've decided that today we're going to see if that job can be done with an under-the-desk walking treadmill. So, Ruby, if you're telling about
so we're going to do a little transition here. We actually have the treadmill right here in place of Bo's seat. And he's going to do the rest of this TikTok segment while testing out this treadmill. So yeah, we're going to see how he does. And at the end of this segment, we're going to see what his review is on whether or not it's worth it, whether or not he can actually do his job while walking on it.
All right, I'm getting it going because I could just stand here and pretend like I'm walking.
You could, but no, this is real. We're really trying these out as best we can.
That would not be truth in advertising.
Now, the thing we didn't say too is this one retails for $380, which is like, compared to some of the other products that you can buy on TikTok, it's kind of a pricier one.
I mean, isn't like an actual treadmill? I mean, I think an actual treadmill is probably $1,000. You know, it's a 4-figure purchase. But what stops someone from just getting on their actual treadmill and bringing their laptop over to it and working on that? That seems to me.
You can use your regular desk setup. You know, and you don't have to like move things around, and you don't have to have some platform for your computer. I don't know.
Okay, well, so far so good. We're gonna see how this works. One, it feels weird to be moving right now. It's not like a normal thing. But let's keep going. Let's talk about the next product that we found on TikTok.
Moving on to product number 2. It's the Saucemento dip clip. You can get 2 of these for $10, and it's literally, I have one right here. It's literally a little. Well, you know what? Show the TikTok first.
Let's
look at it.
The internet says this is.
A dip clip? Something to put in your car so you could eat fast food and dunk into the sauces with ease? Like I needed another excuse to go to McDonald's. I'll take that. Thank you very much. She's sturdy. I'll give her that. All right, now let's test this on the best sauce ever, hot mustard with nuggets. I thought this was going to be dumb, but it's a 10 out of 10. Highly recommended.
Now, this one I'm intrigued by, right? Because I got to confess, when I'm driving, let me confess. When I'm eating, I don't often eat fast food. But when I do eat fast food, I am a sauce person, right? Like I like my ketchups, my Polynesians, my barbecue, my Chick-fil-A sauce. But when I'm driving, because I recognize it's a losing endeavor for me, right? It doesn't work, and it's dangerous to us. I choose to go sauceless when I'm in my car, when I'm operating my automobile.
Seems responsible.
Right, it's a responsible thing. This is interesting that now I could put my ketchup up there or put my Polynesian up there. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't she plug it into her air conditioning vent?
She did. There's a little rubber, like, grippy thing that literally goes into your air conditioning vent, and it sits right there. It does seem convenient. I would not use this while I'm driving.
How come?
I just feel like it's a recipe for disaster. Like, not only is it distracting and you're, like, looking down and, like, moving, but also, like, what if it does fall off?
Well, then $10 just cost you $100 to get your car detailed.
Yeah.
And I think that sauce viscosity is probably a pretty important delineator here, right?
Absolutely.
Because maybe you're eating a barbecue sandwich and you want to dip it in like a vinegar-based, not thick, opposite of thick, super thin sauce.
Yes.
But then it's a hot day, so
everywhere.
you turn on your air conditioning and you blast barbecue all over yourself. So Daniel, do you use this? Have you actually used this? He says it works. Daniel says it's a good one.
We do have a couple of team members here who said it's a game changer, but I think they also drive with it. So I just feel like that's too risky.
You know, somebody in the chat just said, I could see ladies filling that with nail polish. Could you imagine seeing someone that's pretty creative. But for $10, I'll try it.
That was the thing. This is so inexpensive that I have been known to like park my car and eat my like Chick-fil-A or whatever before I go somewhere. So I would like try this. It might make it more convenient, but I don't know if it would really be a game changer in that scenario.
All right, so treadmill, I don't know if I'm in on necessarily. Saucemento, I'd give it a try because the cost, the barrier to entry is pretty low.
Yeah.
Ruby, let's talk about this third
This is a good one.
TikTok product.
This is the cat carrier backpack, retailing for $40. What problem might this solve? You say maybe you want to go on a walk and you want to just spend time with your cat. but they might get tired. They might run away. They don't want to walk on a leash. Well, if that's the case, I present to you the cat carrier backpack.
All right, let's see what TikTok says about this cat pack.
Let's do it.
I got my cat a backpack.
I think you need to do one more click there, Bo, to play the
I
video.
got my cat a backpack hoping
He's
he would like
distracted
going
by the
outdoors.
treadmill.
Shortly after we started going on bike rides.
This is hilarious, though, this video. Who thought of this? That's what I
angle
want
is-
to know.
What angle is that? That cat's upside. I mean, I guess maybe the
I
camera's
think the
upside
phone
down.
is like down or something.
So I gotta be honest.
yeah.
I'm not a cat person.
You're not a
it's
cat
just
guy.
not generally the place I live. But we have some people here that are cat people, and we asked, hey, would this be something about? Because I guess, and again, I'm not a cat person. You can't just put a leash on a cat and go for a walk. So this
Not
provides a mechanism where you can take the cat out and do that. But
It seems well made.
But isn't the whole point of having cats to like have them at home, like be at home with them so they can like scratch your
Yeah.
stuff and like litter box? Like there's no litter box in there. So what happens when nature calls? Do you let the cat out to go, or do you just have to go on like
I think you just have to risk it. Yeah.
I personally not buying
I would
the
not do
cat
this one.
backpack.
I grew up with cats, but I grew up with outdoor cats, so I say just let them go be an outdoor cat.
Outdoor cat. Daniel, indoor cats, outdoor cats. He said indoor cats.
Yeah.
This is actually, you may not know this, that's actually his cat
I know, we're going to
backpack
out Daniel on
that
this
we
one.
brought in.
He owns
So-
this. Granted, I think he said that maybe some gifting was involved here, but they've used it. And so I'd say this one, not worth it to me, but if this is something that really makes you happy, that's,
You
I
couldn't
guess
even get
go
that
for
out
it.
with a straight face. No cat backpack for me. All right, this next one is kind of an interesting one. And this one I'm curious, Ruby, because you
Yes.
said that you put this into the test.
This is the one that intrigued me the most by far. It's the Scrub Daddy sponges and the pink stuff cleaner. It's only like $6 to $12, depending on like you can get like a pack of 3 of the scrub brushes or different things. So it's not super expensive. Let's see what it does, because this is what is intriguing.
My first question before I click on
Yes.
it. So it's a sponge, but it just has a smiley face on it, or is there something different about the sponge that's more unique than a smiley face?
It is unique. Like it feels. Here, I have one. It feels different. Like it's very heavy duty.
Oh, so
and
it's not like a
hard.
normal kitchen sponge.
No, it's not a normal kitchen sponge. And then that smiley face actually has some utility. Like you can put your fingers like in the
eye
holes,
sockets.
or like you
That's
can like
demented.
stick a spoon in here and clean it out.
Great.
But also like just the material is very good at getting the sticky, grimy stuff off, supposedly.
All right, let's see what the internet says, how effectively this works. I know I got to click twice.
See, so that's the
That's
pink
the
stuff.
pink stuff.
And so these are 2 separate products, but you're seeing them used in combo a lot on TikTok and Instagram.
How is a really dirty oven door?
Yeah. It's very satisfying.
It is very satisfying. Very ASMR, is that what that's called?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Have you
look at
gone down
that.
the rabbit hole of these like cleaning videos, Bo?
This may surprise you. No.
See, I feel like you would love these.
I'm honestly watching this. I am kind of liking that. And that looks effective.
worked,
like that
right?
is a different, but here's what I always assume of before and afters. You know, like when Billy Mays will like slap the duct tape on the canoe. I'm thinking that they actually fixed the canoe before he slapped the duct tape on.
So I had seen these Scrub Daddies before, and when I saw this video that Nate and Daniel pulled, I was like, so my oven looks like that. Because it's an old oven, like it's one we want to replace. Like when we
Sure.
moved in a couple years ago, we were like, eventually we're going to replace this. So I just haven't even thought of it. But I was like, I need to try this.
All
so
right.
I'm putting myself on blast. I did the before and after, and you can see
look
it.
at that.
And it actually did work.
So
it
it's
was
not just
significantly
so it doesn't
better.
just clean the glass or the glass surface. It cleaned the other surface as well,
Mm-hmm.
and so it legit
Like, I
got your
kind of want
stuff
to take
off.
it inside my oven now and see what happens. But it definitely worked. I mean, you can kind of see on the photo if you're watching, like the inside, like there's some inside of the glass. It's still a little discolored, but that's just because it's so old, honestly. So it can't get rid of like, you know, the years and years of grime inside. But as far as the outside grime, it did a great job.
You know,
and I would totally do it again.
I'm sold on this. And it's weird how confirmation bias in this world works. I'm seeing how many folks in the chat right now say, hey, I've got that sponge. Hey, I use the pink stuff. Hey, it's incredible.
Yeah.
There is something about having other people whose opinions you respect, that's me thinking about respecting y'all's opinions, that says, yeah, this stuff works. This stuff is legit. This stuff might make sense. And again, the thing that I love is the barrier entry, pretty low, $6 to $12.
It's very inexpensive, yeah. Especially, I mean, there's some cleaning products out there that are crazy, you know? So I would definitely do this again.
So if I'm thinking through this, right, and I'm going to summarize this, it seems like if you are using social media, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, to figure out how to make your consumption decisions, barrier to entry matters. If I'm going to buy something inexpensive, like maybe a brush or a cleaning product, or maybe even some type of clothing like Legend shorts or something along those lines, it's okay to use social media as your affirmation. But when it comes to making bigger purchases, I'm thinking like financial products, investment accounts, strategies, things that you do with your army of dollar bills that is not just like the vacation money, it's not just like that little froth on the top, but major financial decisions. Perhaps social media is not the place that you want to focus. Perhaps that's not the place that you want to get your information from, or at least you want to make sure you do your due diligence. So I think this is interesting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those, not so bad, right?
Not so bad, but I think it's good to be aware that like these are so pervasive and social media can be so convincing. Like the whole point of this is just like think twice before you click and buy. Like,
Love
is this
it.
actually, are you actually where you need to be? Are you doing like a ton of these little purchases that are adding up, or is it really not that big of a deal for you? That's why we have the financial order of operations and all the principles that we share on the show, so that you can know where you are, know where you're going, and know where your next dollar should be.
All right, Ribby, obviously we like to review TikTok products, but if
I
you're
know.
brand new to the channel, it's not what we're known for. This is not our bread and butter. We're not obviously on treadmills most of the time. So while I get myself reset up,
But you have to give us a review of the treadmill.
Oh,
How did you did it distract you? Obviously, we did have the clicking incident where you needed to play the video.
Couldn't multitask,
Yeah.
right? I'm not out of breath, right?
Yeah.
I've got my watch on, so I can see how many calories I'm burning. So I'm actually getting some exercise, but I don't know that this would be my go-to. I think
For $380.
if I wanted to get this amount of exercise while I was working, I'd probably just take a walk in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know that taking a walk at my desk is going to be the ticket, but if this is what it takes to get you active, I'm a huge proponent of activity. So maybe, or don't do it, or just go for a walk.
We would say go for a walk. If you're watching live, go ahead and tell us if you have any experience with this product as he kind of makes the switch, because I think you're going to switch back, aren't you?
I am going to switch back right now.
Because we're about to dive into your financial questions. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with us while we reviewed some fun TikTok products and talked about the crazy e-commerce that is social media. But every Tuesday, we love going to the chat, hearing what you guys are talking about, hearing what you guys are asking in the way of personal finance. And we're about to dive into even more of your questions today. It's no exception. So
Okay, well, I got to move my...
I am
Two things are
looking-
not good right here.
Oh,
Bring that down.
Bo has to do a serious reset.
Yeah, serious reset.
Chair up, microphone down. And then he's going to answer some of your financial questions. I've got a lot of questions in the hopper here. So if you haven't submitted a question yet into the chat, go ahead and do that. We've got the team out in the wings, getting your questions into the hopper and ready to go for Bo and I. How you feeling, Bo?
Honestly, you know when you get off a boat and
Little motion sickness?
No, not motion sick, but you know how like when you get off the boat, you feel like you're still on the water,
Yeah.
right? I feel like I'm still moving right now.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Interesting.
See what's going to happen if that wears off or not.
Okay. Team, you good for us to start answering questions? What do you think? We'll wait for Nate for a second.
One of the things, if you are brand new and you've not interacted with our stuff before, we said one of the things we'd love for you to do is like stay tuned into the financial order of operations, right? If that's something that's a new concept to you, you're not familiar with it, go check it out. Go to moneyguy.com/resources. We have a free deliverable there that will walk you through the 9 tried and true steps of what to do with your army of dollar bills. You can find that along with a ton of other free resources at moneyguy.com/resources. Or if you want to do a deep dive on the financial order of operations, go to learn.moneyguy.com and you can check it out there.
Yeah, that's really excellent. All right. We are going to jump into a question now. CS has a question for you, Bo. He says, hey, Money Guy team, should I be keeping some percent cash position in anticipation of a potential upcoming recession? Or should I continue ABB, always
baby.
be buying, as you and Brian say?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question we get all the time, because you hear us talk about, hey, the best time to invest would have been yesterday. So the second best time to invest, then therefore is today, right? If we couldn't start yesterday, we need to start today. And we are huge proponents of this idea of ABB, always be buying, always be putting your money into the market, always be adding to your army of dollar bills. But some people say, hey, I've heard this idea that maybe I want to keep some dry powder. Maybe I want to keep some cash on the side. What if I think that there's a downturn? I have to be very clear here. When you say stuff like that, like what if there's a downturn? What if there's a recession? I want you to be someone who's opportunistic and not trying to time the market. Because you may hear me and Brian talk about it. We personally, when it comes to investing, we are always buying, but we do keep a little bit of excess cash on the sidelines or excess liquidity on the sidelines so that we can jump on opportunities. This building that we're in being a prime example of that. In our mind, it is not an either or. It's not a, am I always be buying or do I stockpile cash? It's a both and. And I would argue that the thought process behind stacking up cash to have a reserve, to have dry powder money, is what we call, Brian, it's a horrible name for it, but it's rich people problems. Like that's a rich people strategy. Because when you do that is after you've already satisfied your 25%. If you are saving 25% for the future and you're working through the financial order of operations and you know that all of your dollars are going in the buckets they're supposed to be going, and you still have excess discretionary cash flow, and you don't want to like, you don't have something else earmarked. There's not a trip that you're trying to go on or something else you're trying to save for, and say, you know what? I just have excess money. I don't want to spend it. There's nothing wrong with thinking about accumulating those dollars so that they can be there should the market come down, or should a piece of real estate become available, or should a business opportunity make itself available. It's not an either or. It's a do the always be buying first. Once you hit that 25%, then it's okay if you want to start building up a little more cash so that you can be opportunistic. If you get it in reverse, if you start building up that cash because you think a recession is coming, boy, you might be waiting for a while. Because I want you to think about this. In 2008, S&P 500 broad market lost 37%. 2009, big recovery year once we got past March. 2010, the market made money. 2011, the market was flat. And then in 2013, the market made, I want to say it was 32.5%. I'm going off memory here. So huge recession, big recovery, market made 32.5%. And everyone's saying, ooh, downturn's coming, double dip's coming, downturn's coming, double dip's coming. If you would have acted on that advice in 2013, you would have not been able to really deploy those dollars probably until the fourth quarter of 2018. So you'd have missed all that positive market performance by not always being buying. So we think that it's always buy first, then stack your powder money, not in reverse. Yes, that's a great question.
And something that really helped me with that is that, you know, if you're, especially if you're younger and have some years till you're going to retire, like you're basically getting a discount, you know, like, because really when you think about it, if you're going to let the money sit and you're going to buy even when the market's down, it's actually a great time to buy.
It is.
If you've got some time. And so
exactly right.
That like makes me more excited or makes me feel really good about the always be buying strategy and thought process. So,
now, one last thing. I'm so sorry. Can I add?
Of course.
Don't be lazy with your powder money. Like right now, my emergency reserves, as well as the excess cash that I carry, is earning like 4.66% right now. So don't just default in your checking account or default in your brick and mortar. Cash is no longer trash. It's actually generating yield right now. I'm amazed. One of the things we do for our clients is we'll like review their tax returns before they file. Today, is the last day we got to be doing that, at least for folks who aren't in filing extensions. And I'm amazed when I see someone who I know has a healthy cash reserve, but when I look at their taxable interest last year, it's like $47, $113, or whatever that number is. Don't be lazy, because that little bit extra might buy you dinner once a month, might be your grocery bill once a month. Don't let your cash sit idle. Go out there, find a solid high yield money market, high yield FDIC insured account to go get those dollars working for you.
Yeah, I love that. CS, hopefully that helps you out too. And thanks so much for your question. E-Money has a question next.
There we go.
Do you have any rules of thumb on how much to spend on a car if you're paying cash? I'm curious if it should be based on income, net worth, or a combination. Just to recap, if you're new here, we do have kind of a tried and true rule about buying cars, but it's if you need to finance. So it's the 23-8 rule. It's you put 20% down, you should pay it off in 3 years, and it shouldn't be more than 8% of your gross income. And then if it's going to be a luxury car, you should be paying cash or paying it off within a year, basically, just to kind of protect you from that depreciating asset. Now, this is a good question, I think, because guess what? It's still probably better to pay cash, even if you can.
Sure.
Right? Like you don't have
Absolutely.
to do 23-8 if you can pay cash. So what do you think? How should they gauge how much car they can afford?
Yeah, this is a question that we get often. And I think that my answer is going to surprise you, because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you're following the financial order of operation, oh, guys, you got to bring me the sheet. Just because Brian is here doesn't mean we can't have the sheet. Bring it up here real quick for me. We have to.
I'm going to get it.
You have to be following the financial order of operations. So you can go to moneyguy.com/resources to make sure you're doing the things you know that you want to be doing or you should be doing with your dollars. Well, when it comes to... She's new to this, guys.
It was upside down. I'm sorry, guys. Usually Brian does this.
When it comes to buying a car, there is not a tried and true rule, because what you value may differ than what someone else values. I personally am not a car guy. Like, I have some friends, they are car guys. They know the latest models coming out. They can tell you about the engines. They can tell you about the new tech. They can tell you about all these amazing things. That's not something that I derive a lot of utility after. So if I have a friend who wants to go out and buy a $100,000 car, but they have income to substantiate that, they have net worth to substantiate that, and they've been following the financial order of operations, I have no problem with that. No different than if that same person wanted to take 4 trips throughout a year that cost $25,000 those trips. It all depends on what you value, but you can't get it twisted. You can't get it out of order. Far too often we see folks say, hey, you know what? I want that really expensive car. I want to go get that $70,000 Tesla, but you know, I'm young, but I just got out of med school and I owe it to myself. I've been working hard. I should be able to buy the car that I want. And you know what? I heard the guy say that it can't be more than 8% of my, so I'm just going to finance it over 72 months. Well, if you're doing that, all you're doing is faking. You're not making the right decision. Or if you're someone who starts out and you say, you know what? I have $0 invested, but I'm going to go out and buy a $70,000 car. Even if you're paying cash, I would argue that you're getting it twisted. You know, Reby mentioned 23-8, 20% down, don't finance for any more than 3 years, no more than 8% of your gross income. Luxury car has to be paid off in 1 year. There's one other caveat if you're going to be a financer. Your monthly investments need to be greater than your car payment. Don't have a $900 car payment and $200 a month going in your investment accounts. That's not the way that you need to do. So I would argue, don't have a negative net worth and go start trying to pay cash for a car. Make sure you understand where you are on your unique financial journey. But if someone wants to buy nice cars, especially even later in life, maybe you're someone who you've built a portfolio and your net worth is $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. And maybe you're not a high income person, but you're a great saver. And you say, you know what? I want to do it. I want to go buy that BMW. I want to go buy that Tesla. Nothing wrong with that, but don't get it out of order, because we know how powerful our dollars can be. If you go down to the wealth multiplier, moneyguy.com/resources, and if you're a 20-year-old and you go buy a $50,000 car, take that $50,000, multiply times 88, that's how much that car is actually costing your future self. So make sure you understand the mathematics there around your consumption decisions.
Yeah, I love that. Again, that's moneyguy.com/resources, the wealth multiplier. It'll show you your age, and your wealth multiplier and how much your dollar could turn into by the time you retire. Good answer. And thank you, eMoney, for your question. Let's move on to JPWM98's question.
I'm going to call you JP.
Good call. What are your thoughts on using real estate as your third bucket instead of a taxable brokerage account, assuming it is paid off by retirement? And could you talk about maybe the 3 buckets real quick in case someone does not know?
Yeah, so what JP is asking is during our accumulation phase, and based on the financial order of operations, you want to hold it up for me, Ruby? Based on the financial order of operations we'll lay out, if you follow it, you should build 3 distinct tax buckets. You have your tax deferred bucket, that's like your 401ks, IRAs, those type of accounts. Then you have your tax-free bucket, that's your Roth assets and your HSA assets, and there's this third bucket. We just call it after tax. That's usually what happens for most people when they get to the hyper-accumulation phase. So JP is saying, hey, instead of having that after-tax bucket, what about real estate? Can I have that instead? JP, your question was 9 out of 10, almost perfect. 9 out of 10. Here's where you missed it. In my view, it's not either or. And if you're going to get into real estate, it better not be either or, because if all you have in terms of after-tax capital available to you is a real estate asset, even if it's yielding good cash flow, and even if you have rental income coming in, but you have no liquidity, you can find yourself in a dangerous place because you don't know when vacancies are going to happen. You don't know when the water heater is going to go out. You don't know when you're going to have to replace the HVAC. You don't know when a tenant is going to jack your stuff up. So I would argue, in addition to the real estate, you have to have some level of liquidity to protect you when things don't go your way. Real estate is an amazing investment, and we are huge fans and proponents of it, so long as you're doing it the right way in the right time. Now, I do love the idea of, hey, by the time I get to retirement, I've got a rental property and it's cash flowing, or I own a commercial building and it's cash flowing and it's completely paid off. That's amazing. You're basically kind of setting yourself up with like a pseudo self-funded pension, but you need to make sure that that's not all that you have, because just because it is generating liquidity for you presently doesn't mean it will continue to, because we saw this in 2008. 2008, real estate values tanked and people were getting laid off. People lose their jobs. So the rental market was not as strong. So it's not uncommon for someone to have a rental property sitting there easily, just sucking money out of them. You say, well, wait, but no, it's not sucking money out. It says paid off. You still got to pay utilities. You still got to pay for upkeep. You still got to pay for property taxes. And if there are repairs, you still have to pay for the repairs. So you need to make sure that in addition to the real estate that you own, you are keeping liquidity. To answer JP's question, I think real estate is a part of your third bucket, a part of your after-tax bucket, but is not the sole and exclusive bucket itself, or else you're probably running it too lean.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, real estate can be great, but again, just do it in the right order. Make sure you've covered your bases. Good answer. Thanks, JP, for your question. Appreciate it. Moving on to a question from Sir Snugglebear Gaming.
Sir Snuggle.
Sir Snugglebear. I'm leaving my job soon, and I have about $30K in a 401k after 6 years. Should I just leave the money alone or move it somewhere else? If I should move it, what would be the recommendation, or where should I consider moving it?
Yeah, this is great, Sir Snuggle. So in the world in which we live right now, people change jobs pretty often, right? Like it's common. You don't have a lot of people starting at one company at the beginning of their career and staying with that company all the way till the end of their career. And so we bounce. We work at this company and then we leave and go somewhere else and go somewhere else and go somewhere else. Well, those retirement accounts are very, very valuable. We always say that the most important money you ever save is the first money you save. So the most important money you ever save is probably that money that you put in your very first employer-sponsored retirement plan. That very first 401k or simple IRA that you started is really, really valuable. So when we change jobs, we really have 4 options, but I'm going to take one away because you only have 3 options. The fourth one I do not like. The fourth one is I can cash it out. Far too many people do that. Oh,
Don't
okay.
do that.
I left the job.
Yeah.
I have $30,000. You know what? I get it. There's taxes, there's penalty, but that's $30,000. I can get that money right now. You are literally robbing from your future self if you do that. So the fourth option, cash it out, is not an option. I'm only going to talk about 3 options that you really have. One is exactly what you said. You could leave it where it is. If you're with a good employer plan and maybe it's low cost, it's a big provider, maybe there's a benefit there like a brokerage link option or a PCRA option, maybe it has really robust and diverse investment selections you can choose from, there's nothing wrong with leaving it there. You need to understand what the annual administration cost is and what the underlying costs of the portfolio are. But so long as it's over a certain dollar amount, and it depends on the plan design, either $1,000 or $5,000, you have the choice to just leave it right where it is. So that's a perfectly viable solution. Option number 2 is if you're going to a new employer that has a new retirement plan, you can roll into the new retirement plan. Again, you have to do the same assessment. Which one has a better provider? Which one has lower cost options? Which one has better benefits in terms of like self-directed brokerage, mega backdoor possibilities? Like, are those things that are available in one plan or the other plan? So you really look at the two and say, okay, which one of these is more valuable? Which one is better? And you could roll it to your new employer. Well, then your third option, maybe the old plan wasn't great because it was sold by an insurance company and it's really expensive. And maybe the new option isn't great either. Same sort of thing, just different company and it's not perfect. You do have the option when you leave, you can actually roll your dollars into an IRA at a custodian of your choosing. So this can be a Fidelity, a Schwab, a Vanguard. And if you have a Roth 401k, you can roll it into a Roth IRA. Or if you have a pre-tax 401k, you can roll it into a traditional IRA or an IRA rollover. The beautiful thing about doing that is if it's a direct trustee to trustee transfer, there are no taxes due. So you don't have to pay income tax, you don't have to pay any sort of early penalty on that. And you get to choose a custodian. So you can choose someone like Fidelity. And you get to choose the investment options. And you get to manage it yourself. So that's a really viable solution that a lot of people want to implement and want to employ. Now, do understand the one caveat I'll throw to that is if you are someone who's higher income and you're someone who's perpetrating the backdoor Roth strategy where you fund a non-deductible IRA and you convert it into a Roth to try to do it tax-free, if you make the decision to roll your 401k balance or some portion of 401k balance into an IRA, those dollars now become subject to the pro rata rule that you have to do every year determining how much of your Roth conversion is taxable or not taxable. So if you're doing backdoors and you want to keep doing backdoors and you want them to stay tax-free, you need to make sure those dollars always stay inside an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Once it comes into an IRA, they come into the calculation. Now, if you're below the income threshold where you can just contribute to Roth straight away, forget everything I said. Doesn't affect you. You just need to decide who's better, my current plan, the new plan, or an IRA on my own. Those are your 3 options. Do not cash it out.
Really good answer. Sir Snugglebear, thank you for that question, and I hope that really helps. Next question is from John. He says, can you discuss investment vehicles for independent contractors? In particular, he asked about SEP IRAs versus individual 401ks.
Sure.
So how do you decide which is right for you? And then are those his best options?
Yeah, so we get this all the time. And this is the cadence of small business ownership, generally speaking. I come with this idea and I start this business. And I'm like, okay, I hope it works, right? It's scary. Entrepreneurship is this frightening, scary thing. And you're like, okay, I got my first customer. I sold my first product, had my first sale. I got some money coming in. Great. I can keep the lights on this month. I can keep the food on the table. Great. Well, then the business you get another customer and you get another client, you get another sale, and you're like, holy cow, this is doing pretty good. Well, maybe you continue on that track for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then in the 3rd year, you go to your accountant and, it's like February, March, and you're like, hey, I need to do my taxes. And the accountant starts working on it and says, hey, just so you know, Reby, your small business did really well this year. You got a big tax bill. And you look around, you're like, whoa, no.
Oh, no.
It was doing good. It wasn't doing that good. Why do I have a big tax?
Yeah.
Well, you're self-employed. You got to pay income tax. You got to pay self-employment tax. You have all these different things that come into play. And so you say, what can I do? And so most small business owners find themselves in that what can I do place. Well, one of the absolute best things that you can do, it's the DeLorean of the financial world, is what's known as a SEP IRA, a self-employed pension, a SEP IRA, where you can, for last year, make an employer contribution to a retirement plan to legally hide those dollars from the government. Now, SEP IRAs really only work well if you are the only employee. if you have other employees and you decide, you know what, I want to take my compensation and put 10% of my money into a SEP, you got to do 10% for everybody else, right? Like, so it gets really, really expensive. So really, these are for like independent contractors. If you have 1099 income or you're a sole practitioner, SEP IRAs can be a great solution in a way for you to save somewhere between 20 to 25% of either your net profit or your W-2, depending on how your company's structured. I won't get into that. So SEP IRAs are a great solution and a great thing you can do. Well, maybe you start doing the SEP IRA, like, man, that's cool, but I want to save more. I want to have an opportunity where I can save more. And maybe I don't want to just do the employer portion. I don't want to just do that 20 to 25% of profit. I want to do like a 401k. Well, then you graduate to what's known as a solo 401k, where you yourself, as the business owner, can create a 401k plan that you and your spouse can be on. And not only can you do profit sharing contributions, that 20 to 25% that I mentioned, you can also do salary deferrals. And this year in 2023, salary deferrals go up to $22,500 for those under 50, all the way up to $30,000 for those over 50. So if you're someone and maybe you're paying yourself, 60 grand from your small business, you say, you know what? I'm going to do a solo 401k. I want to put $22,500 as a salary deferral. And then I'm going to do a profit sharing contribution on top of that. At some of those lower income thresholds, you can actually get more money into a solo 401k sooner than you can with a SEP. Again, this only makes sense if you don't have employees. Once you start having employees, you can't do a solo. You probably need to graduate to either a simple IRA, which is kind of like a 401k light, or they're so affordable now, you can just do regular 401ks. They are way less expensive than they were 10, 15 years ago. And now they even have safe harbor deals where so long as you put a minimum level in for your employees, you as the owner can still max out your salary deferrals. And then so long as you're willing to give your employees a portion, you can do profit sharing portions as well. So generally it graduates from SEP to a solo and then often to a traditional 401k. So if you are someone doing a side hustle and you got a 1099 coming in, maybe you drive for Uber, maybe you're delivery dudes or whatever, you get a 1099 income. One of the great things you can do is when you file your tax return and you have your top line profit minus all your expenses and you have that net number that flows through on your Schedule C most likely, you ought to ask your accountant, hey, should I do a SEP IRA contribution? Should I open that up for last year? All right, last caveat, I promise I'm going to stop doing caveats.
No, this is honestly really good information.
The last thing that you want to think about is if you do a SEP IRA, and again, you're one of those higher income households, higher income folks, that will become includable as a pro rata calculation if you're doing backdoor Roths. So if you're someone who's higher income or your business has reached the profit to where you're falling above that, single 150 range, married 200 range, then you may want to consider doing a solo 401k so that you can keep open your ability to do backdoor Roth IRA contributions if that's a strategy you're already perpetrating.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was lots of good details and kind of got into the weeds a little bit, which I hope was really helpful for John and anybody else that is thinking about independent investment vehicles. So
love it.
Thanks, Bo. And thanks for the question, John. All right, next question is from Restore Sanity. He says, what financial mistakes, errors, scams, or misguided decisions have you personally made? And then what have you learned from them?
Mistakes, errors.
I'm happy to go first.
I was about to say, Reby, why don't you weigh in on this?
No, I will, because I will kind of put myself on blast again here. When I got hired to my very first job out of college, I was super excited about the job. It was great. But I really had no idea what a 401k was. Honestly didn't know. Like, I had heard some family members say like, oh, that's a good thing to do. And that was about it. And so I didn't do it. Didn't do it. And I just didn't know until I was getting ready to leave that job. And then it was like, is it worth the paperwork? Which in retrospect, even a few months probably would have been good.
Right, because how valuable are those dollars for
especially
a young lady in her
20s? A 22-year-old Reby would have been very, very powerful. And I still look back on that and think that was a big mistake. And what have I learned from it? I mean, take the opportunity now and don't ignore how powerful your dollar can be. That is why I know we talk about it all the time, but that's why I love our wealth multiplier. Like, that was one of my favorite things, even, when I first met you guys. That was one of the most powerful illustrations that really kind of woke something up in my brain. about the opportunity that I was leaving on the table. And thankfully, I found that still in my 20s with still plenty of time and was able to take advantage of it. And so I would say don't let a regret keep you from taking the opportunity now to invest your money and to actually build for the future and actually take advantage of that number of what your dollar could turn into at your age today by the time you retire. Because even if you are in your 30s or your later 20s or even 40s, like there's still a lot of opportunity to be had. And so don't let a mistake, especially like a young you mistake, keep you from going full force as much as you can now and taking opportunity. And then also I try now to tell younger people like, hey, here's what it actually is. You know, like it's an investment vehicle and you're getting free money. Like, so don't leave that on the table. And so it also just taught me to try to talk more about that because 22-year-old Reby she just didn't know. She didn't like to do paperwork. And I think that that's fairly common. And I totally empathize with that. So that's mine.
I love here at the firm that we own, Abound Wealth Management, we believe in family financial planning. And so one of the things that a lot of our clients ask us to do is, hey, my child is in college or they just started their first job. Will you talk to them? And one of the things that we always say to folks who are starting out in their career, we don't try to dazzle them with investment returns and all that kind of, and how to like be super tax smart and all. I mean, that stuff will come. We just say, do something. If you can just get a young person to do something early and don't do the one-time thing, because I have buddies who did that. I convinced them to fund an IRA. They did it 1 year, and that year was 2008. And they were like, oh, this is the dumbest thing ever. I try to convince my folks to do it monthly. Hey, $10 a month, $20 a month, set on autopilot. Let's talk in 12 months. And you'll be amazed once you start seeing that happen. So for young people, that's all I try to do. That's the minimum path I try to cross over. Can I get them doing something? I'll share with you very quickly 3 mistakes I've made. Number 1, early on in my career, I sold whole life insurance. Because, you know why? I was a decent salesman back then. Not so much anymore, but I could do it and I could spin the thing, right? And what I recognized is I drank the Kool-Aid. I didn't understand how the products work. I didn't understand what made sense and what did not make sense about them. I just understood, hey, this person, I can kind of halfway justify them buying whole life insurance, and boy, is it a big commission. So I lived on that side, recognizing that when you're in the desert and your name is Wile E. Coyote, everything starts looking like a turkey leg, right? Like everything starts looking like you start finding solutions that don't actually exist there. So I did that, and I learned very early on, don't sell something you don't know. Don't try to convince people to do something they should not be doing based on something you think you know. That's very similar to the second thing that I learned, second mistake. When I took my very first investment course in college, I was probably 4 weeks into it and I had investing figured out, right? I was like, oh, this is so easy. You buy stocks. What you do is you buy them when they're low, you sell them when they're high. So I went to Yahoo Finance and I found like 3 or 4 stocks that had done the worst year to date, and I went and bought those. And I was like, oh, how could this not work out amazingly, right? And then I got smart, and this is before Sirius and XM merged. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go buy some Sirius satellite radio stock, because when this merger happens, they're gonna have a monopoly. It's gonna be crazy. Mattel is another one. Mattel just had a huge recall. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy. And what I recognized, and all this was like circa 2006, 2007, and I got to live through the Great Recession with all those individual companies. I was like, man, maybe the way that I thought investing worked doesn't actually work that way. These things that I thought I knew was going to happen with these individual stocks did not happen. And then when I kind of educated myself and I started going through the CFP coursework and I kind of got into the industry, I recognized, man, this whole S&P 500 thing, this whole target retirement index thing, there's something to that. The beautiful simplicity of it is that it's beautifully simple and that it's incredibly effective if you can just put it in place and not outsmart yourself. Those are 2 that I thought were, I have a third one.
I was going to say, I thought you had a third.
This is the third one. Going into, man, all of mine revolve around me thinking I know it all. I've matured since then.
Mine was just being lazy.
When I got married, I was the finance guy, right? Like I was in our relationship. I was the one, my wife was a school teacher. I was like, hey, I got this figured out. So I had planned out how every dollar was going to be spent through our first year of marriage. I did not bother to consult with her about that input. And I learned very early on in my marriage that a marriage is a partnership where both partners have to be on the same page. They have to understand that not all shampoo is Suave shampoo that costs $1.50 a bottle. While it seems like that should be perfectly fine, that was not perfectly fine for my beautiful wife. And so I learned very early on that when it comes to finances, it's not about optimization and dollars and that part. It's about your why. Well, one of my whys getting married is I want to have a happy marriage. I want a wife that's going to stay with me forever. So I better make sure that I don't just continue to beat her over the head with what I'm telling her that we're going to do financially. And let's have a conversation. Let's figure out what we want to accomplish with our dollars. And then we can back into the most effective way to do that, the most effective way to accomplish that. So recognizing going into it that compromise had to take place, conversation had to take place, communication had to take place was a big learning curve for me, because I just thought since I was the subject matter expert, she would just default to me. Defaulting was not what took place in my marriage.
But that's really good. I think like that goes with so many things, and money is no exception. In fact, it's a really huge factor. But those were honestly really good lessons. And there you go. Restore sanity. You got some money guy confessions there. Hopefully you learned from it so you don't have to make the same mistakes.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we've got a question from Tyler. He says, with a mortgage interest rate of 6% these days, should I consider it as high interest debt and pay on it more aggressively or not?
So
what do you think?
So Tyler, this is a really hard question, and one we're getting a lot. You know, if you follow the financial order of operations, Ruby, you want to hold the thing right side up for me? If you follow the financial order of operations, there you go.
That's what Brian does.
You'll notice that step number 3 is pay off your high interest debt. Well, in order to pay off high interest debt, you have to define what, in fact, is high interest debt. And we've come through a period where mortgages were nowhere near high interest debt, right? Like 2.5%, 3.5% mortgages. Like it was very, 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 very hard to justify prepaying those, right? Because it just did not make sense. And so now we're in a place where mortgage rates have come up. Mortgage rates have now crept up to where they're 6%, 7%. And so this is the question that I would ask Tyler is, where are you in your financial life cycle? And that can be both in terms of accumulation as well as your age, because you have to make an opportunity cost decision. First thing that you ought to note is right now in this country, if you have a mortgage rate at 6% and you are an itemized deductor, and that part matters, because if you're a standard, people always think, oh, mortgage interest is deductible. Not for everyone, right? You got to make sure that you're actually itemizing on your taxes. And some folks, now that the standard deduction is so high, they don't itemize. But if you're an itemizer, your mortgage rate, that 6%, is actually some number less than that, right? You got to do the math to figure out how I calculate my true effective mortgage rate. But you get a tax benefit from that. So it's something less than 6. So the variables you have to weigh are, okay, I can either pay off this mortgage and lock in savings of something less than 6%, or I can take those dollars and go deploy them into the future, right? We know that for a 20-year-old, $1 can turn into 88. For a 30-year-old, I think $1 can turn into 23. For a 40-year-old, $1 can turn into $7. So you have to figure out where you are age-wise to how much juice your dollars still have. Because while, if you have a fixed rate mortgage right now, and this is year 1 of your 30-year mortgage, that $1 that you pay on it is going to save you something less than 6%. Fast forward 25 years in the future and you decide to prepay, that $1 on a fixed rate mortgage is going to save you something less than 6%. Like that's locked in. Now for a 30-year-old, that $1 that you take and put to work for you is going to work way harder than for the 50-year-old who takes that $1 and puts it to work. So you have to figure out, where are your army of dollars? Where are you in the strength building portion of your financial journey? At 6%, just kind of like off the cuff, doesn't sound like a super high mortgage rate. I think it's probably a little higher than historical averages, but it's not like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I mean, we have seen, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, we've seen mortgage rates at that level before. That's not where it is right now. But I think you have to kind of make that assessment. And here's a great thing. I know you guys think that, oh man, they just always pitch their tools and their product. It's because we built them with a need in mind. One of the things, Tyler, you ought to do is go do our Know Your Number course. Go out to learn.moneyguy.com and figure out, okay, if I want to live a certain level of lifestyle at a certain age, what's the number to allow me to do that? And where am I at today? To get to where I am today, to where I want to be in the future, how much do I need to save? Like, what is the number I need to be saving to get there? Well, if you determine that you're on track and you're doing that and you're going to hit that number and you still have excess cash flow, and one of your goals is to be debt-free, by all means, you can apply that to the mortgage. Now, I would argue, if you're young, you could apply it to like an after-tax account and have the ability to be debt-free even sooner. That's what I had to convince Brian of. But that's okay. It's your prerogative. You get to choose what you want to do with your dollars, but you have to know where you're going, your end goal, the finish line, and you have to know where you are. That's the net worth tool. And then you have to know the path to get there. That's the financial order of operations. And so I think if you can approach it that way, you can determine for you if 6% is a high interest or a low interest mortgage rate.
Yeah, good answer, Tyler. Hopefully that helps as you think through that. And we really appreciate you being here and asking your question. Question from Jake. He says, I'm 41, a software engineer, and not planning on retiring early. However, he's noticing that ageism exists in the field, especially after age 50. And he's thinking, how can I best protect myself or set myself up for success in the event that something unexpected happens?
Yeah, this is a real problem and something that we see because ageism, it's this idea that as we age, there's a new crop of folks coming along whose skill set's going to be better, stronger, faster, and we're not going to be able to adapt, right? I mean, we were joking. This is a very loose example, but Reba and I were talking about, back in our day, Facebook came out. Well, now we have TikTok. I've never even been on TikTok. I don't even know what TikTok looks like until you guys show me, because my generation just was not exposed to that. It's not something comfortable with. Whereas I'm sure when my kids come through, it's going to be a whole
something
new,
else,
we think ChatGPT is novel. I can't wait to see what it's like 20 years from now. Like, what's that going to look like? And so one of the questions that especially like our higher compensated tech folks are asking is, okay, how do I protect myself against this? Well, I think there's really two things that we counsel our clients to do. One, you have to understand your industry. What is unique about your industry and how can you position yourself to be on the cutting edge? Because it is a fallacy that just because I'm getting older, I can't do technology. Me and Brian have some clients that are like in their 50s and even into their 60s who are wizards when it comes to tech. I mean, would blow your mind because they just stay abreast of it. They don't get caught on what they knew 30 years ago and stop learning. They become lifetime learners that are continuing to improve their skill set, master a new one, improve their skill set, master a new one, improve a skill set, master a new one. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you keep yourself on the cutting edge so that you don't allow yourself, your skills, your talents to become antiquated. But you may say, yeah, I can do that. But the fact is, once I got gray hair, once I got wrinkles, my employer's not going to look at me the same way. Well, then I think one of the things you have to do is you have to try to inoculate yourself to remove power from them and put power into your court. And the way we do that is by building financial independence. Now, we have a number of clients who say, hey, you know what? I would love to work until I'm 70. But I recognize once I hit 60, my company may not want to pay me my huge salary. They might not value me that same way. So what I'm going to do is by the time I get to 55 or 60, I'm going to be financially independent. That if all of a sudden I could not show up to work and do the things that I have been doing because my company decides I'm no longer fit to do that, I can tell them, well, great, I'll pick up my marbles and go home. I've got enough money. I've got enough financial independence. I have enough security. I'm working because I want to, not because I have to. Where we see problems are where people are working because they still have to, and they don't have a long enough runway to build up that financial independence. So, Jake, the earlier you can figure that out, the more likely you can start working towards that goal. And look, I'm a realist. I recognize not everyone has the ability to do that. I mean, ageism in your profession could happen at 45, 50. All the more important as to why it makes sense to start saving aggressively as early as possible so that you can control for those variables later in life.
Yeah.
Tech space is going to be interesting. I mean, I think about how much technology has changed from the year that I was born. I mean, the year I was born, there weren't like cell phones, internet was still like kind of a questionable thing back then. All the way till now, I think our entire world can be operated from a mobile device in our pocket. And now we're having computers that can like think and reason and have tone and It's really, really interesting. I think it's going to be neat to see where it goes, but there's also going to be some onus on us if we're in that field. How do I stay relevant? How do I make sure my skills stay sharp?
Yeah, and I think there's like a humility there of like just knowing that you don't know it all. I mean, I think that's good for you in any, even here, like there's always a new social media platform out there. And I'm kind of similar to you where I'm realizing I'm not always like, I have to like really intentionally go and be on it like TikTok and figure it out. But that was a really good answer. Jake, hopefully that helped you out. Let's move on to Gabriel's question. He's 24 years old, maxing out his Roth, and is above 25% with in savings rate with early retirement aspirations. Now, he's not currently contributing to an after-tax brokerage. Should I be, so I can pull those dollars out before I can get to my Roth and 401k? Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Awesome.
No, that was my answer. Yes, we can move on. No, I'm kidding.
You like to do that. That's good.
Gabriel,
yes,
you do it.
Short answer.
24 years old, maxing out the Roth.
I know, that's really good.
Awesome. 24 years old, saving 25% of your gross income. Awesome. You're doing all the things. So if you have a desire for early retirement, one of the things you want to be able to do is Roth dollars are probably the most powerful dollars in your bucket because they grow tax-free forever. So you want to let them grow as long as possible. So ideally, you put your money in your Roth now and you let it grow, and then that's the last money that you pull out. So you think, okay, I want to retire early. I want to leave the workforce before 65. Maybe I want to leave it 55 or maybe even 50. You better understand how you're going to pay for your living expenses at that time, because we know 401ks, if I'm not employed in the year that I turn 55, I can't get to that money. I can't get to that money if I leave before 55 till 59 and a half. IRAs, can't get to it till 59 and a half. Social Security, I can't start drawing on that sucker until 62 or if full retirement age later on, or even if I want to max it out age 70. So you need to understand how you're going to bridge that gap. Well, one of the best ways to bridge that gap is an after-tax account. Now, this is what I've learned, and I'm not super old, but I know my life right now is so different than it was at 24. Rebe, would you agree? I mean, right now, you are,
absolutely,
life is different than it was at 24. And so what I love, 24, you're not playing operation, you're throwing horseshoes. You just kind of know the direction you want to go, and you're flinging the shoe in that direction, hoping that when you walk down there, you got a leaner, right? Maybe you hooked it. As you get closer and closer to retirement, as you get closer to financial independence, well, then you have to be laser precise. You have to have the scalpel. You're no longer just trying to get close, you're trying to get exact. But so much is going to change between the age of 24 and financial independence, even if you're in your 40s financial independence type person. So I think saving early and often, building your 3 tax buckets is going to be a great strategy, because not only is that third bucket going to be the thing that might allow you to retire early and might provide your distribution to pay your living expenses, maybe you just want to take a year off. That third bucket might, and I've got clients who are doing that in their late 30s, they're doing sabbaticals. They're taking that time off. Nothing wrong with doing that. Maybe an opportunity presents itself, like an amazing commercial building right in the heart of a historic downtown that you just can't walk away from. You won't be able to jump on that if all of your money is tied up in Roths and tied up in pre-tax and 401ks. So having that after-tax bucket, what is really going to provide a 24-year-old is flexibility later in life. And that's all we're trying to do, is give ourselves flexibility so that we can choose how we want our financial life to look. So I think, Gabriel, you're doing all the right stuff. And if you're hitting 25%, that's so awesome. There's nothing wrong with starting to build up dollars in an after-tax account to give yourself that flexibility.
Great answer. Hopefully that helps, Gabriel. Thanks for the question. Next, we've got Casual Credit Gaming's question. If you are already at 25% income investment rate without including employer match, but you're also not even close to maxing out the 401k, when do you move on to the last 3 steps of the financial order of operations? And for reference, he's at about a $70K salary.
All right, so let's do this. Rebe, hold up.
Yep,
for those of you who aren't familiar, this is our financial order of operations. It's 9 tried and true steps to help you figure out what you should do with your next dollar. We got a free deliverable. Where can they get that at?
Moneyguy.com/resources. You can download this very sheet. And step 3 is paying off high interest debt. Oh, last 3 steps. That's
He's
what he
asked for the
said.
last 3
Yeah, I
steps.
was like, that doesn't make sense. So last 3 steps are, step 6 is maxing out retirement. So
And what he's saying
if
is
he's not even close to that
yeah,
and probably isn't going to get there, what's he do
He's
next?
saying I'm hitting my 25%, right? And because step 6, for those of you who aren't familiar, is max out your retirement accounts. Well, they just raised that number. For those under 50, it's $22,500. For those over 50, it's $30,000. Well, you can very quickly do some math that if I'm doing $6,500 into a Roth IRA and I'm doing $7,300 into an HSA and I'm doing $22,500 into a 401k, I better be pretty big income or I'm already hitting my 25%. Well, casual credit, this is the answer to the question. It depends on what your plan is. The financial order of operations was designed to be a guide. It's supposed to put you on a path to financial independence. But frankly, your destination is different than my destination. And my destination is different than Reeby's destination. So you have to figure out, okay, what is the destination that I'm working towards? Because we can be on the same path for a while, following the financial order of operations. But at some point where our paths diverge, maybe I never want to retire. I'm going to be doing this as long as you guys will tune in to listen to it. But maybe you say, I want to check out at 50. Well, if that's the case, our paths are going to diverge at some point. And you may determine, okay, I'm saving 25%, but I really need to make sure that I have bridge money to get me from the time that I retire, the time that I walk away from my income, all the way out to 59 and a half, or maybe bridge me all the way to Social Security to make sure that I can pay my living expenses and provide for my needs. Then it might be necessary for you to not max out your retirement accounts and move on to step 7, hyperaccumulation. Well, you say, okay, but well, how does that factor in? Does that mean that if I have kids and I want to start doing prepaid future expenses, step 8, that I should decrease my savings rate, not max out, and go fund my 529s? May it never be so. That's not what we're saying, because you have to make sure that you're saving for yourself first before you can begin saving for your kids. Your kids are going to have tons of options when it comes to college. You are not going to have tons of options when it comes to retirement unless you save for it yourself. So you got to hit the 25%, but whether you're squeezing that in step 6 retirement plans or step 7 hyperaccumulation, I think you get a little bit of wiggle room. Really, step 8 and 9 is once you get above 25%, or once you know your number and you are well on the path to your number and say, okay, hey, I don't need to save 25% anymore. My 20 and 30-year-old self did that. Now I'm in my mid-40s. I can back down the savings rate. Okay, now I can go pay off low interest debt. Now I can prepay future expenses. You have to know what your specific plan is and figure out, okay, I'm going to follow the FOO until it makes sense to deviate a touch so that my plan is specific to me.
That was really good. Casual credit. Thanks for the question. Hopefully that helps you out. Question from definitely not Bizarre O'Brien.
That sounds like, you know what? If I was not Bizarre O'Brien, I would name myself definitely not Bizarre.
No way, really? Well, he's got a question. It's kind of about our average 401k show that's going to be coming out soon. We always share those numbers, right?
It's a good one.
The average 401k balance of Americans. But he says, how would you recommend Financial Mutants use the average 401k balance information, considering that they also have IRA and or HSA savings in addition to 401ks? And it seems likely the average person doesn't. So kind of what should they do with this information? I think that that's kind of a good question.
Yeah, so you have to be careful comparing yourself to the average. We know that right now, 57% of Americans could not come up with $1,000 for an emergency, right? Now, look, don't get on me about median and average. I'm just going to say a statement here. I don't mean it definitively. But the average American can't come up with $1,000, right? Like that's what that statistic would suggest to us. So we have to be careful measuring ourselves against the averages, right? But here's what I think is helpful when we do these 401k episodes. If you've not checked them out, go check out last year's before this one comes out. We just call it average 401k by age. And we walk through 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. Hey, what's the average 401k balance right there, right? How much should you have saved? Okay, what does this mean? Why is this applicable? Really, what we want you to do is recognize, hey, I'm doing great. I'm above average. Hey, I'm not doing great. I'm below average. hey, that's not the important part. The important part is, okay, if I want to make sure that I'm doing the things that I'm doing, what do I need to be at by the next decade? Where do I need to be at the 1.8 times income? Do I need to be at the 2.6? Do I need to be at the 5? Do I need to be at the 8? Do I need to be at the 20 times income to be at financial independence or whatever that number may be? That's one of the things we want you to derive from that episode. Because I think if you want a litmus test, here you go. Average 401k is not how you should stack yourself up. We are huge proponents here of the Millionaire Next Door formula. This was popularized by Dr. Thomas Stanley and Danko in the Millionaire Next Door. You take your age times your income and divide it by 10, right? That's going to tell you if you're an average accumulator of wealth, that's where your net worth should be. So don't think about average 401k balance if you want to include your IRAs and your HSAs and all of the other accounts. Take your age. By the way, if you're married, take like the average of your spousal ages. That'll work just fine. Age times income divided by 10. That'll tell if you're an average accumulator of wealth. If you want to know if you're a prodigious accumulator of wealth, which just means you're a front row sitter, you're ahead of the curve, you're doing, you're a financial mutant, if you will, you multiply that number times 2. Well, we found 2 things that aren't perfect about that formula, and so we've adjusted it. If you're someone who's under 40 years old, you haven't had enough time for your dollars to really work for you. So when you go, holy cow, I just started my first job, 25 years old, I make $50,000 a year, 50 times 25 divided by 10, I'm nowhere near that net worth, right? Like that's going to throw me off. We give you a little reprieve and we do it in the denominator. For those of you that aren't math folks, that's the number that's on the bottom. So here's what you do. You take your age times your income divided by 10 plus the number of years till 40. So if you're 30 years old, it'd be 10 plus 10. You would divide by 20. That's going to give you a more realistic explanation or example of where should my net worth be if I want to be an average accumulator of wealth, or if I want to be a prodigious or a financial mutant accumulator of wealth. So one other caveat that I'm going to throw out there, people say all the time, man, my income is just, it's boomed, right? Like, 5 years ago, I was making $50,000. Now I'm making $100,000. And when I was saving back then, I had to save on the $50,000. I've only just had the $100,000 now. We get that. We understand the income can change. So if you're someone who's in a rapidly increasing income and your trajectories looked interesting, there's nothing wrong with smoothing it. Take your age today, average your last 3 years, average your last 5 years of income, divide by the appropriate denominator, 10 if you're over 40, 10 plus number of years to your 40 if you're under 40, and that'll give you an idea. All of this is like napkin stuff, right? Like this is like I'm brushing my teeth, I got my phone, is to get you excited. If you want to like nail it, if you want to, okay, what do I need? That's where the Know Your Number course comes in. You can go to learn.moneyguy.com to check that out. We actually decide, okay, this isn't like the general rule of thumb for people that are generally your age and generally your income level. Know Your Number is supposed to give you your number. What's the one that you should know? So I think those are better metrics for like, okay, how do I use this? How do I think about this? One of the things we talk about in that 401k show is, if I start saving 25% right now, what's that do for me? And what I don't want to give it away. Make sure you go watch the show. But one thing it does is it shortens your timeline. If I start saving 25% at 25, it's going to look a lot different than someone who doesn't start saving 25% until 35. And again, what you're doing is you're putting optionality and flexibility on your side of the table so that you can choose what your future financial life looks like. So that's how I would think about using that. That's how I would think about comparing let me rephrase that. That's how I would think about the information shared. Don't compare yourself to your peers. Comparison is the thief of joy. It does not matter how much money you have versus how much money I have. What matters is do you have enough money to allow you to live the life that you want on your terms, the way that you want to live it? That should matter more. We have clients here at Abound Wealth who have less than 7-figure portfolios that are completely financially independent, meaning everything that they want to do in their life, they are doing, and they have complete confidence and comfort in that. We have other clients that have 8-figure portfolios that are still building. They have not quite gotten there yet based on the legacy things they want to do, based on the way that they want to impact the world and the people around them. It's not like a compare me to you. It's compare me to me. Where am I relative to where I need to be? And I think you should always approach your financial matters that way.
Man, that was good stuff. Thanks for that question. Definitely not Bizarro Brian. It honestly was a really good one. I love all these questions. Seriously, thank you for being here and hanging out with us and asking your financial questions, giving us a chance to speak into it and just talk about it with you. We're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central on YouTube and Facebook. And so we'll be back doing more of that next week.
Guys, we love getting to do this content. Thank you for letting us be a part of your financial journey. We'll be here every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central. For Reby, I am your host today, Bo Hansen. For the rest of the Money Guy team,